Welcome everybody to Kagyu Samye Dzong, Edinburgh, and also to those of you who are listening online. Good to have you with us. And so first of all, before we begin the session, let's say the supplication to the root Llama and then the Bajidara lineage prayer. So it's good to begin our session in that way. O glorious, precious root Llama, above my head on a lotus moon seat, you care for me with great kindness. Please bestow the siddhis of body, speech, and mind. Great Vajradhara Tilonaro Marpa Mila Dharma Lord Gampopa, knower of the 3 times, omniscient Karmapa, holders of the 4 elder and 8 younger lineages, Trikuntaklang and the Salpa, glorious Drugpa, and so forth, masters of the profound path of Mahamudra, to the dark pole instruction lineage, the peerless protectors of wanderers. Kagyu Lamas, I supplicate you, I uphold your lineage. Grant the blessings of your liberating lives. Just as revulsion is taught to be the legs of meditation, this meditator clings not to food and riches, and has severed the ties to worldly life. Grant your blessings for detachment from honor and gain. Just as devotion is taught to be the head of meditation, this meditator constantly prays to the Llama, who opens the vault of pith instructions. Grant your blessings for uncontrived devotion to well forth. Just as non-distraction is taught to be the body of meditation, this meditator simply remains without altering the fresh essence of whatever thought arises. Grant your blessings for parting from the concept of meditation. Just as thought is taught to be in essence Dhammakaya, for this meditator unhindered manifestation dawns. Nothing whatsoever dawning as whatever may appear. Grant your blessings to realize inseparable samsara nirvana. May I never in future lives part from authentic Lamas, and embracing ever the glory of Dharma. May I perfect the qualities of the levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, so we won't be using the prayers till the end, so if you want to leave it on the table nearby, if you don't want it in front of you. So this is the Songs of Milarepa course, and it's the last session. Now, each session has different songs, and they relate to a different situations in Milarepa's life, and that caused him to sing these songs of realization. But this last one follows on from the previous one. So if you haven't done part 4, I would recommend that you do go back. They're all online, so you can go back to part 4 if you haven't done it, and then this will make... It's not that it doesn't make sense without it, of course it does, but if you want to get a sense of continuity of how the story unfolded, it's the only one that does that, and the reason being is because it was the story of how Milarepa met Saleh, who became one of his great female disciples, and she was quite sort of forthcoming, so she responds to his teachings in such a way that's also very instructional and enlightening. So I thought it was good to put those in as well, which of course means there were more songs. But anyway, there's only 3 songs in this particular session, and it will make sense to you even if you haven't done the previous one. But if you can, go back and then come back to this if you haven't already done it. So the way it works is I'm going to read some of this chapter, and then when we get to the actual songs, they will be on the screen, so you can read them for yourself as I'm reading through them. Also, it means that if you go back and want to study it, it's online, and you don't necessarily have to have the book. So in the previous session, he'd already met, I'm not going to recap the entire thing, but just in brief, he'd already met this young lady called Saleh, although actually she wasn't called Saleh because that was the name he gives her, but for all intents and purposes we'll call her that because we don't know what her name was before that. So anyway, he'd kind of tested her with various sort of things to see if she was really intent on studying the Dharma, because it's quite difficult for a young girl to study the Dharma, and he was sort of saying, oh, you should maybe go and get married and do all this, but it was all to test her. Anyway, she came through with flying colours. So he said that, right, so I'm very pleased with your answers, so you're ready to do your meditation, and he gave her some instructions and vows, upasaka vows, and he sent her off to meditate. So we pick it up at that point. Okay, I will recap the last paragraph from the previous one. The Jetsun, that means Milarepa, the Jetsun then gave her the upasaka vows from the sutra tradition, as well as the abhishekas, that's the empowerments from the mantra tradition, and then gave her the name Saleh. So now she's officially called Saleh. Means vivid light or light of radiance. So taking the instructions to heart, she was then sent to meditate, and the good qualities of the signs of experience quickly developed, and she became capable of remaining in the mountains. So she hadn't been there for any length of time. It was a sort of initial time. It doesn't specify how long, but it doesn't sound like it was for very long. But anyway, all the good signs developed. And then she came back to meet with Milarepa, and he said, the Jetsun said, I'm so pleased with your perseverance and meditation. By the experience and realization that you have attained, you will now be able to stay in the mountains. You can go, and when he says stay, he means for quite some time on her own. So now go to the mountains to meditate in solitude and keep this essential instruction in your heart until we meet again. And then he sang this song of realization of instruction. So now we're going to go to the song. And what we'll do is I'll just read through it without stopping, and then we'll go back and look at it in a bit more detail. Qualified guru with great compassion, 3 precious jewels, excellent sources of refuge, the dakinis and dharmapalas with your great power, all of these I've described. To you I bow. I don't know how to sing songs with poetic words, but these words have the blessings of the lineage. Their meaning is the intention of the victorious ones. O faithful meditator Saleh, wipe the dirt from the mirror of mind and look into the space of stainless sky. With the blessings of all the previous siddhas, go meditate in the mountains, in solitary places. The reason for wandering in mountain retreats is to gain mastery. Look at the mind's nature. Now I'll explain the way to look. Listen without distraction, Saleh. Taking the mountain up there as an example, you should meditate free of any movement. To give rise to the Buddha's good qualities, do this with determination that forbears pleasure and pain. Taking the river down there as an example, meditate without breaking the flow. To receive the blessings of the Guru, you must have continuous respect and devotion. Taking the sky here as an example, meditate without center or edge. Look at the reality of the true nature. Do so with means and wisdom in union. Taking the sun and moon as an example, meditate without clarity becoming obscured. Know the 6 types of beings to have been your parents. Have compassion that fully encompasses them all. Taking the ocean down there as an example, meditate without any dullness and torpor. Look directly at your own mind. Practice according to the Guru's speech. Taking the earth as an example, meditate completely free of change. To be an appropriate vessel for the instructions, make faith stable within the all base. Looking inwardly at your own mind, meditate without labels or terms. To make appearances dawn as your texts, make your very own mind what you study. At all times and in every way, procure the provisions of inexhaustible generosity. Beautify yourself with the ornament of discipline. Shake off and wear the animal hide of patience. Ride the magical horse of diligence. Seek out the noble city of meditation. Become wealthy with the riches of prajna. Not forgetting the kindness of the Guru, make many offerings of your experience and realization. Do you understand this meaning, you woman of faith? Thus he sang. So let's go back and look into it in some detail. The first verse, qualified Guru with great compassion. In this he's addressing his Guru, Marpa. Marpa the translator, his absolute Guru, who he holds very high, beyond, just complete devotion. So before he gives anybody any kind of teaching, he pays homage to his Guru, Marpa, the qualified Guru with great compassion. 3 precious jewels, excellent sources of refuge, the Dakinis and Dhammapalas, with your great power. All of these I've described. To you I bow. In other words, he holds them to be all of these things. And all of these sources of refuge are embodied within the Guru, within Marpa. So straight away, that's already an instruction. It shows you how to be to the Guru. Now he says, I don't know how to sing with poetic words. I mean, he is the sublime poet. But, of course, he's also very self-effacing. And people sometimes, when they say poetic words, sometimes they mean kind of highfalutin words, a bit flowery and, that sort of poetry. Milarepa's poetry is absolutely direct and to the point, and he doesn't mince his words. A true poet, in other words. But he's very self-effacing. But basically he says, but whatever my qualities or lack of them, these words have the blessings of the lineage, which is the ultimate. So he's absolutely confident about. So he's saying to her, you should also be confident, because whatever my shortcomings may be as a poet or singer or whatever, it carries the blessing of the lineage, and that's the important thing. And their meaning is the intention of the victorious ones. So the victorious ones are all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that have come before. So all the enlightened beings, the meaning of his words is what they intend, their intention. So in the first sentence he's sort of being very self-depreciating, but then he's saying, well actually, but you couldn't do better than to listen to this, because it's the lineage and all the meaning of the victorious ones. O faithful meditator Saleh. So he's starting the actual instruction. Wipe the dirt from the mirror of mind and look into the space of stainless sky. So the symbolism of the mirror is quite a classical symbol of meaning that the mind is like a reflection, and when it gets dusty with all the kind of misunderstandings and sort of ignorance and all the root downfalls of attachment and greed and pride, all of these things, they are not your mind. They are just like the dust motes that land on your mind, and they can be cleared. So he's straight away saying, the mirror is clear, and anything that's not clear can be cleaned away, and that's what the practice is for. And he takes as an example, look into the space of the stainless sky. The sky is completely stainless. And think of your mind in that way. It's not only is it stainless, but it's limitless. There's no limit to the sky or space, is there? So the mind is like that. And with the blessings of all the previous siddhas, all the previous great meditators, that's the siddhas are the great meditators, go and meditate in the mountains in solitary places. So he's telling her where to go and to be on her own. And then he gives her the reason why. So the reason for wandering in mountain retreats is to gain mastery. Look at mind's nature. Basically, she's going to be free of distraction. There's nobody around to distract her. And that's so that she can gain mastery of her own mind, because where is Buddha? The Buddha is your own mind. The Buddha is not without, it's within. So if you want to become an enlightened Buddha, which is the aim of the whole exercise, then you have to start with your mind, because that's where the realization is going to occur. Now I'll explain the way to look. So listen without distraction, Saleh. It's important. Sharpen your hearing. And then he gives her all these examples that she's going to be surrounded by when she's on her own. So taking the mountain up there as an example, you should meditate free of any movement. I mean, a mountain is still, isn't it? A mountain is the epitome of stillness. So in terms of not fidgeting or kind of moving around too much, think of yourself as like a mountain, like the earth, a mountain. So you meditate, free of any movement, and then to give rise to the Buddha's good qualities from within, do this with determination that forbears pleasure and pain. So whatever experiences you have while you're meditating, whether they're pleasurable or painful, just suffer them. Don't just forbear them. Don't get distracted by them. Just sit with it and, don't get distracted by it. And you might think, oh, well, pleasure, surely that's not a bad thing. Maybe you'll have some really nice experiences. That actually can be the biggest distraction when you have good meditation experiences, because then it creates attachment. Oh, that's really nice, that I feel blissful. And then the next time you sit down and you don't feel that. So, oh, well, why is it not working? And then you're trying to grasp onto it. So pleasurable experiences are just as much, if not more, of a distraction. Similarly, pain, the least little is kind of, this is, and then I do this, and then, then there's no end to it. Of course, for us relative beginners, we will get pains, and it's not that we have to do things in stages. So she's already at a very advanced stage. So we are not yet capable of going to the mountains and sitting still for days and nights on end. There's maybe a little bit asking too much of ourselves, but we can build up to it. So whatever you're capable of doing, whether it's 10, 15 minutes, the next time maybe try 20 minutes, or the next week try half an hour, and gradually build up like that. You start with where you're at. So in her, she's already pretty advanced. So, but in either case, she's saying, forbear. Don't get involved with pleasure. Don't get involved with pain. Then he takes another example, taking the river down there as an example. Usually even if you're in the solitary retreat, you'll have to be near some source of water. So take the river as an example. Meditate without breaking the flow. So your meditation is a bit like the river just flowing along constantly. Of course, it's flowing. It's not static, it's flowing, and thoughts occur, and feelings occur, and all sorts of things occur, but you still maintain that calm, abiding flow without constantly stopping. To receive the blessings of the Guru, you must have continuous respect and devotion. Now, the blessings of the Guru, which in her case, he's her Guru, but whoever's the Guru, are so important, because basically what that means is if you have genuine devotion to the Guru, and it's not something you can fake, it has to be from the heart, and you have to really feel that, and it doesn't matter whether the Guru is famous or not famous or whatever. If you have that connection to your Guru, you feel great appreciation, then that opens you up. And when you're open, you receive the Guru's blessings. The Guru's blessings, Akram Rinpoche, who's my Guru, my root Guru, I remember him once saying to me, the Guru's blessings are always there. It's we who are not always open. But think of it like the sun. The sun is always shining. Whether there's a cloud in front of it or not, the sun is still always shining. So the Guru's blessings are always there, but how much we receive of the Guru's blessings depends on how open we are. And what opens us is our genuine, sincere devotion. Not how many offerings you've made, or how many kasas you've given, or how many bows and scrapes you've done. It's your genuine devotion. Of course, you might want to make offerings. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But the best offering is the offering of your devotion, and your practice. Not material things so much. So you must have continuous respect and devotion. Taking the sky here as an example. Meditate without center or edge. So the sky has no center or edge, does it? You can't say, oh, that bit of sky, that's the center of the whole sky, and then the edge is over there and over there. Well, it's not like that, is it? And however much you voyage into space, there's no central point or edge to it. It's just space. It goes on and on and on. And mind is like that. There is no limit to our mind. Our mind is like space. So there's not that, right, I'm here, so this is the center of my universe, and everything else is sort of a peripheral. That's a complete illusion. So you're taking space or the sky as an example. Look at the reality of the true nature. The true nature of your mind is like space. And do so with means and wisdom in union. So means and wisdom means like the method by which you meditate or practice, whichever your practice is, and the wisdom with which arises because of that practice. So the method and the wisdom together. You need both. So all the practices, you have to have both method and wisdom. Then he carries on with another example. Taking the sun and moon as an example, meditate without clarity becoming obscured. Well, it's a bit like what I just said, isn't it? So the sun and the moon are always there, they're always shining, but sometimes they might be obscured by clouds, which, to continue this sort of metaphor, the clouds would be our thinking, our mistaken thinking, which passes by. They're just transient. They don't last. So any obscurations in that way are just transient misunderstandings, you could say. Then, know the 6 types of beings to have been your parents. Have compassion that fully encompasses them all. So the 6 types of beings are the beings of the 6 realms of existence. So that can be the beings in the hell realms, or the hungry spirit realms, or it can be the animal realm, which we can see, so it's more easy for us to understand. The animal realm we're surrounded by. Then, of course, the human realm. Then you get the jealous God realm, and then you get the God realm. So all of these different levels of beings, all of them, you should understand them to be your parents. Why? Because all beings, ourselves included, have countless lives since beginningless time and to endless time. There's not a point where it began, and there's not a point where it ends. What begins and ends is our physical bodies. But our mind, which is who we truly are, doesn't have a physical existence, does it? You can't point to your mind. You say, "Oh, put my mind in there. Here's mine. I'm leaving it there for now. Just look after it." You can't hold your mind. You can't point to your mind. Some people might go like this, as if the mind's in the head. Some people might go like this, and like the mind's in the body. But if you open it up, there's no thing called the mind. You'll find a brain, which is essentially a computer, a machine, or there's organs, but there's no mind. Or even a thought. You can't grasp a thought, can you? So basically, when we've fully understood multiple lives and the fact that we reincarnate into different bodies, then it stands to reason that all the other beings will at some point or other have been our parents, and we'll have been their parents, because we've had countless lifetimes, going back billions we're way beyond the Big Bang. The Big Bang was just a blip. So way, way, way beyond that to beginningless time. It's very difficult to conceive of in our own little way of thinking. So all this is about is thinking big, really thinking big, without limit. And so the reason why he's stressing this is because there's nothing that should be outside of our compassion. Even the tiniest little ant or the worst human being, however bad they are, because they have all been related to us in different times, and we should encompass all in our compassion. Then, taking the ocean down there as an example, meditate without any dullness and torpor. Now, there is a slight thing with this, because Milarepa lived in Tibet, which was a landlocked country. So the chances of him coming into contact with the ocean as a normal human being, I would say, are very remote. But Milarepa was not an ordinary human being. He was an enlightened human being, and he had mastery over the elements. He could fly wherever he wanted to fly. I suspect he might have been up above, and he even says, taking the ocean down there as an example. So I would think he has seen the ocean, even though he might not have gone swimming in it. Even though he can see, he has no limit to what he can see. So in that sense, he knows what the ocean looks like, and he takes that as his metaphor. And he's saying, so meditate without any dullness or torpor. So, this is a vast ocean, it's always kind of clear, it's always the same, and it doesn't get tired. You can't say the ocean gets tired and falls asleep for a bit and then wakes up. It's just constant, isn't it? And practice looking directly into your own mind, because that's where you're going to find it. Practice according to the Guru's speech, to what the Guru's instruction is. Remember that. That's what you need to be looking at, your own mind according to how the Guru's spoken. Why? Because your Guru has already been there and done that. So that's why you can take that person's advice. Your parents, no matter how much they love you, or your husband or wife, no matter how much they love you, if they're not a fully enlightened human being, it's like asking somebody who has never been somewhere the way to go. So you have to walk the walk before you can talk the talk. So follow the Guru's speech. Taking the earth as an example, meditate completely free of change. So the earth we think of as very stable. Meditate completely free of change means you come to a point where your meditation isn't sort of subject to change. You attain the changeless nature. That's what it means. You get to that point where until that point everything's changing. But when you attain full enlightenment, then there is no more change, because you've achieved Buddhahood. You're there. Actually, that reminds me of something that made me understand this more. It's that I might have said this before, but it was an incident that happened when I was driving Trungpa Rinpoche to the airport one day, and it was a chance to ask him something, because it was usually he's surrounded by people. And so I knew that he had taught the previous Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa, and that he was the teacher also of the 17th Karmapa, which is a very unique set of circumstances. So I asked him, and I said, "Oh, may I just ask you? It's very unique that you were the teacher of the 16th Karmapa, and now you're the teacher of the 17th Karmapa." And I said, "So do you see any similarity?" Fully expecting him to say, "Oh yes," and he said, "No, I nearly stopped the car. I was so shocked that you said no. And I was like, really? And he saw this look of puzzle. I was like trying to drive at the same time. And he said, not similar, the same. That's the changeless nature. That's when I understood a little about what the changeless nature could mean. That degree of certainty. I'm getting a little bit shivery because so that's anyway how I understand it. To be an appropriate vessel for the instructions, make faith stable within the all base. The all base is like is the ground, the common ground that we all have. And then if your faith is stable, not just coming and going, and sometimes you feel devotion, sometimes you don't, sometimes you've got faith, sometimes you haven't. When it's stable, and you can't fake it, you have to, develop it, then you become an appropriate vessel for the instructions. Then you're going to receive the instructions and be able to act on them. Looking inwardly at your own mind, meditate without any labels or terms. So you don't have to say, that's this and this is that, and oh, that must be this state of mind, and I'll put that label on it, and it just makes more confusion. Just look at what you're looking at. You don't need to categorize it as this and that. That actually is distraction. And concepts and terms and all of that, that's intellectual, academic sort of way of looking at things. It's not experiential. To make appearances dawn as your texts, make your very own mind what you study. So whatever appearances come to you, make those as your texts. That's what you should be studying. Make your very own mind what you study, not what's out there, not what's in here, not what so-and-so says. Of course, you have study and you can use that to help your studies, but ultimately, you're looking at your mind. Everything is pointing to your mind, or it should be. So don't get distracted by other things. It's not saying that you shouldn't study. You should study. But that's not the point. The point is to bring it into your own mind, because that's what it's all about. Not out there. So make your very own mind what you study, at all times and in every way. So that's not just when you're sitting with your book, or you're sitting meditating, but even when you're going about your daily business. Anything you do, you're going to get food, you maybe go to get water, you maybe beg for alms, a tree falls in front of you. Whatever happens in your life, turn it to your practice. See that as your practice. See, like say a tree drops down. See that as impermanence, for example. Whatever happens can be turned to your practice, and whether you judge it in your worldly way as being good or pleasant or unpleasant, that is not the point. Very often we learn more by what's unpleasant, don't we? Or when we get ill or something like that. So turn that to your practice. Make illness your practice. Whatever happens, that is just not saying just only when you're in the temple or even if you're in your cave, but you have to go out to get something. That is also practice. The animals that you see around, that can also be practice. Procure the provisions of inexhaustible generosity. So he's talking about gathering the good qualities, the accumulations, inexhaustible generosity. Not just generosity, but generosity that has no end. It could be a little flea that's going across, and you're generous to that as much as you would be to the king that walks by. Maybe more. Procure the provisions of inexhaustible generosity. So that's the accumulation of merit, of generosity. Beautify yourself with the ornament of discipline. Remember, he's talking to a 16-year-old girl here, who's probably before used to do lots of beautifying, in the normal sense of the word, usual sense of the word. But what could be more beautifying than the ornament of discipline? You need discipline, that's your beauty. Shake off and wear the animal hide of patience. It's like, the Buddha's deer skin, something like that. It's just a kind of metaphor, but it's like wearing your patience. So you need to be generous, you also need to have a lot of patience. And ride the magical horse of diligence. You need to keep up your practice. You need to be diligent, not coming and going. Everything needs to be stable. Seek out the noble city of meditation. Find that place for yourself, that noble city of meditation. Become wealthy, not with worldly wealth, but with the riches of prajna, that's wisdom, the riches of wisdom. And not forgetting the kindness of the Guru, make many offerings of your experience, of your realization. You may not have so much as a grain of rice to offer, but if you have your experience and your realization, that is the ultimate offering. Do you think your Guru wants your gold or your katas or whatever? I mean, he'll accept them out of kindness to you, but what he really needs is your experience and realization. That's his gift, your gift to him. Do you understand this meaning, you woman of faith? Okay, so, shall we see what she says? Thus he sang, and because of that, her faith grew further, and she arranged a vast array of offerings and offered them to please the Jetsun. Then, according to the Jetsun's instruction, she gave up all the deeds of this life, worldly life, and went to meditate in the Nangyal mountain of Nyanang. So she went off to the mountain, that was it. The great Jetsun then went to the red rock of Drin. So he went off to a different place to meditate, and while in a state of luminosity, so he could just drop into it, in which clarity is not obscured, he looked upon, with his mind's eye, he looked upon Richungpa with great love. Now Richungpa is one of his two main heart sons. You can't be closer to Milarepa than be a heart son. So Richungpa was his heart son, and he was off somewhere else meditating. But Milarepa brought him to mind because he wanted to see how he was getting on. So a beam of bright light from a crystal stupa came directly to him, to Milarepa. Due to the power of black magic that Richungpa had trained in with the Tirthikas, so he wasn't always a good boy, Richungpa. He had, as neither was Milarepa. So that they had, both of them had trained with sorcerers at various points. But of course Milarepa had done it all before, been there, done that, and so he knew. So, due to the power of black magic that Richungpa had trained in with the Tirthikas, a great storm gathered and disturbed this vision of the clear stupa. It was like it obscured the vision. So Milarepa thought, has my son Richungpa encountered an obstacle? It's like, what's he been up to? He's my heart son, there's something not right here. So Richungpa thought, right, I'm going to go check this out. He flew, comply. He flew from Poto Red Rock to Lachi. On his way, he touched his foot down on the side of the rock known as Rinchen Practice Cave, where he left his footprint. I've been to Tibet, I've seen footprints of Milarepa. Again, while in a state of luminosity, he saw Richungpa. And he knew that although his life was not in any danger, he still had obstacles of non-dharmic states of mind. There was something not right with his thinking, with his mind. He wasn't in any danger, but something wasn't right. So then he thought, well, okay, he's not in any danger, so I also need to go. So then he went on the road to Nyanyang to check up on Saleh. He wanted to see if she's okay. On the way, he encountered several monks of whom he asked her whereabouts. They said, "Oh, she remains in the same retreat that she was originally in. She's still in the same place. Her body never moves. She never speaks. It's as though she disregards everything. It seems she's fallen into a fault of her meditation." This is what the monk said to him. The Jetsun didn't say he thought, that she can meditate like this is not a fault. It's a very good quality. So he left the monks. He didn't even bother with them. He just took what they said with a pinch of salt. So he went to where she was. Now she too was in a state of luminosity. And she saw that the Jetsun was coming. And so she went into the valley to meet him. So he's coming to her. He's mainly flown. She's seen him coming. They've both seen each other with the mind's eye, and they go to meet. And when she meets him, she prostrates to him and asks after his health. And then she just sits down without saying anything more. She just sits down. She's cool. And she just sits there. So they're both silent. So then, to awaken experience within her, because otherwise they're just going to be sitting there, each in their state of luminosity. He wants to see where she's at. So he says to awaken experience within her, the Jetsun sang this song of realization. This is the next song by Milarepa. Saleh, who has taken into your mind stream the Dharma of relying on solitary mountain retreats. First, with devotion, you relied on the Guru. And through the power of blessings, your mind stream was ripened. You relied on the supreme taste of the path of means, nectar. And having developed certainty in the genuine Dharma, your meditation hasn't been too tight or too loose. So the signs of experience of those previously on the path have dawned within. Since you've had no obstacles or adverse conditions, you have no questions now. And that's also excellent. Even if you practice with effort in the Dharma, if you practice without effort, that's like filling up on poisonous food. It's not possible to have liberation. The musk deer stays for a long time in caves. The black raven's Vajra recitations are many. The white-bellied fish with her breath control is excellent. The white-cawed stork is skilled in extracting nutrients. Marmots meditate on the absorption of cessation. Brahmins practice austerities for a long time. Parrots know how to intone empty rhetoric. If the factor of liberation doesn't dawn in your mind, though you search with longing, you won't find the freedom path. Merely blocking the proliferation of thoughts that swirl in your mind like a pool of water will not liberate you from samsara. With the chandali of meditating on attributes, unbiased prajna will burst forth. With the chandali of resting the mind, you will recognize the bardo's pristine awareness. With the chandali of innate reality, you will realize reality free of birth and cessation. With the Chandali of Bindu and Nadi, you will be free of clinging to things as real. The central channel, the Abhaduti, that is free of effort, is uncontrived, self-arisen, and primordially pure. There, the knot of duality is untied in its own place. Its essence is the key point of Mahamudra. Do you realize this, dear Saleh? Okay, so now what we have to understand is that we won't understand everything, because we've got one enlightened mind talking to another enlightened mind. But we can still get some sense of it, hopefully. So Saleh, you have taken into your mind stream the Dharma of relying on mountain retreats. You have devotion, you relied on the Guru, all this is very good. And through the power of blessing, because you're devoted to the Guru, you're able to receive the blessing, then your mind stream was ripened. Things become much easier when you have that devotion. It's not you, because then there's no ego there. It's not your ego battling to be the best at this and that. You're open to the blessings. So your mind stream was ripened. You relied on the supreme taste of the path of means nectar. This is you're putting your faith, your reliance on the path of means, which is like a nectar. And in this way, you've developed certainty in the genuine Dharma, not just here today, gone tomorrow. You're absolutely certain. Your meditation's been just right. It's not been too tight, not been too loose. You know, when we meditate, sometimes we get very tight with it. We get kind of, oh, it has to be like this, and it becomes kind of tight, or it's just floppy and just sort of not really concentrating. So it has to be just right, like tuning an instrument. So yours is like that. It's not been too tight or too loose. And so the signs of experience of those previously on the path, i.e. the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas who have already become enlightened, they have dawned within you because you're open to it and you've got all the qualities needed. And since you've had no obstacles or adverse conditions, nothing bad has happened to cause problems, you have no questions. That's right, because everything is cool. Well, everything is good. Well, you've got no questions to ask, have you? It's only when there's problems that occur that you might be asking. So you've got no questions, so that's fine. It's excellent. And then he gives a series of examples. So even if you practice, but if you're practicing with great kind of effort, you know, oh, it has to be like this. I think you have to explain that by effort. It means like contrivance. I would say contrivance. You've got an idea and you've got to put, it's got to be like this. Then it's like trying to fill up your body but with poisonous food, because you've basically got the concepts there. You're not that open. You've got an idea of how it should be. This is my understanding of it, I hasten to say. And then that's actually preventing you, because you've got the egocentric way of looking still. So in that way, it's not possible to have liberation. And then he gives the examples of, so a musk deer, for example, they stay for years in caves. So it's not a question of staying a long time in a cave, like a musk deer. And musk deers don't get enlightened. And the black raven, the black ravens, Vajra recitations are many. They have these beautiful songs, and they can say it over and over again, but that's not going to get them enlightened. The white-bellied fish with her breath control, what's got better breath control than a fish? They can stay underwater without breathing. So it's excellent. But that doesn't give you mastery of enlightenment. The white cord stork, I'm presuming that's something like a reed, is skilled at extracting nutrients. You can suck nutrients up through a straw. That's not going to give you enlightenment. Marmots, they can stay still, meditate on absorption of cessation. They don't do anything, marmots. They're just in a state of doing absolutely nothing for hours on end. But they don't get enlightened because of it. Brahmins, a little controversial here, but Brahmins practice austerities for a long time. You might, torture your body for a long time and self-flagellate or stand on one leg for years on end. It's not going to get you there. Parrots know how to intone empty rhetoric. You could teach a parrot some rhetoric and it could say it over and over again and nothing is going to happen. So all of these lines give an example that can be used in connection with the Dharma, staying in caves, Vajra recitations, breath control. But because they're devoid of the factor of liberation, it doesn't dawn in your mind. All of that is just method, but with no means to liberation. Just it looks like something, but it's not got any real meaning. You sit still for a very long time, it looks good. I'm meditating, I'm really still, I'm in a good posture, but nothing's happening. So, with that kind of thing, though you search with longing, no matter how much longing you have, you still won't find freedom from the path. And that's how a lot of people, we practice sometimes like that. And merely blocking the thoughts that occur, that swirl in your mind like a pool of water, will not liberate you from the ocean of samsara. You have to understand what's going on. And then you practice with that understanding. Now, this last verse is more, the practices are more kind of advanced, and so these are practices that one might learn on a long retreat, and even then, only as beginners. But the Chandali of meditating on attributes, unbiased prajna will, but with the Chandali of meditating on attributes, unbiased prajna will burst forth. So the Chandali it's kind of like the heat, in the heat of practice, and meditating on attributes, unbiased prajna, unbiased wisdom will burst forth. With the Chandali, the practice of resting the mind, you will recognize the bardo's pristine awareness. The bardo is the state in between life and death. Pristine awareness. This is beyond us, I'm being frank here. At the moment, this is beyond us, but we can get some inkling. It's like we're looking at the map. With the innate Chandali, it's innate, we all have it. The innate Chandali, innate reality, you will realize reality free of birth and cessation. You go beyond birth and death, basically. With the Chandali of Bindu and Nadi, this is talking about the channels and the chakras, the flow of energy, which you gain mastery of. This is part of the advanced practices, the Chandali. So with these practices, you'll be free of clinging to things as real, meaning our illusory nature of what we think of as real in the ordinary life, in the ordinary worldly way of seeing. You'll be free of that. That's an illusion. It may be that we sometimes get glimpses of its illusory nature, but it comes and goes. It's like, it's not stable. We might have a glimpse here and there. This is all stuff to really look into. So, but with these practices of the inner channels, you'll become free of clinging to things as real. The central channel, the Abhidhuti, that is free of effort, is uncontrived, self-arisen, and primordially pure. When the energies able to go into the central channel, it's without any contrivance, it's self-present, and it's pure, it's primordially pure. There, the knot of duality is untied in its own place. Basically, we see things as dual, as me and you, us and them, black and white, like, don't like. All of it is duality judgment, and all of it doesn't exist, except in our mistaken way of seeing. So when you've done these practices with the body and mind, and the energy comes up through the central channel, then, and it's completely natural, then the knot of duality, this dual way of seeing things, is untied of itself in its own place. It means like there was a knot and it just unties itself because the energy is coming through, and it's like, boom, it's no longer like that. You don't see like that anymore. And your what might have been glimpses are not just glimpses anymore. Your way of seeing is completely changed. You look the same, you're still in the same body, but everything you understand is changed. Your way of seeing, because you're seeing how things truly are. And you still see that there is that worldly way of seeing, and you still see that, you know, that's a way that people and things behave in that deluded way, basically. But you're no longer under its spell, for want of a better expression. Now, its essence is the key point of Mahamudra. Do you realize this, Saleh? The key point of Mahamudra is enlightened understanding. So don't worry if it's not all apparent to you like that, here and now. But it's worth, I think, looking at to get some sort of idea of where we're going. Yeah? I hope it's not been too confusing. Just don't take, or it is confusing. What is confusing is that we don't understand yet. And when you go into it of yourself, you maybe understand a little bit more. And this is very advanced. It's beyond us, really, this section. But we're talking about Saleh here. But we can look at it in the sense that we can, okay, well, we know that we can't go yet to South America, say. But we can go to London. We can get to London. We know how to get to London. We don't know how to get to South America yet. But we can look at a map. We can think, well, one day, if I go there, and then maybe I can go to the next place and the next place, then sooner or later, I'll be able to get there. So that's how we're looking at this. It's extremely advanced. But he knows that she's there, that she has that capability. Thus he sang. Right, so let's see what Saleh has to say in response. So, then Saleh offered her realization to Milarepa. There is one who holds the lineage of Bajidara, who received the prophecy of the 4 classes of Dakinis. Through the compassion of Tilo and Naro, holders of the teachings of the practice lineage, the intention of the Tantras dawned in his heart. The harvest of compassion of the translator Marpolotsawa expands in all 10 directions, and pure fruit ripens for every one of his students. Because of this fruit, I take to my crown your lotus feet that liberate my own mind stream. Great Repa of Guntang, with such compassion, your banner of renown flies in the 10 directions. Precious jewel upon my crown, with faith and respect I supplicate you. Father Guru, who has been so kind to myself and all those who to be tamed. You steer our analysis to the Dharma and establish us on the unerring path. Through Abhisheka, you ripen mind streams that are unripe. Through means, you liberate those without freedom. These appearances that dawn as a variety outside, through your pointing out, are like an illusion. Awareness meets Dharmata, the mother. The magical displays of the wavering mind dissolve in their own place like the waves of the ocean. Through the great strength and force of my practice, I directly cut through every conceptual imputation, all the deviations of the mundane path. The unmistaken path has taken birth in my mind. I understand the secret mantra's path of means. I don't mistake higher paths for those that are lower. I wanted Buddhahood, but I couldn't realize it. So in the Guru's presence, I fervently requested the excellent support of the secret mantra. Together with my special Dharma brother, Nengzongpa, we compare our experiences and realizations. I'm a clever lady, grounded and smart. Those who try to deceive me, I make them my meal. I make short time in ignorant sleep. I make short my time in ignorant sleep and prolong my mind stream in the state of shamatha. I turn down all men to their face. Many years have gone by since I gave up my soft pillow. Mahamudra's reality descends upon my head. I rest within it one-pointedly, undistracted. In my striving for the state of nirvana, I am not separate from emptiness and compassion. Thus, I have no pride or disregard for others. I'm never unhappy with discussing the Dharma. The Guru, who is endowed with kindness, I've always seen him as the Buddha. I offered this song in deep gratitude to him. May the Dakinis revel in this feast of sound. Thus she offered her realization. Okay, we'll have a more detailed look at that. So the first verse is paying homage to Milarepa. There is the one who holds the lineage of Bajidara, the lineage of Dorji Chang, who received the prophecy of the 4 classes of Dakinis. So this person was prophesied by the Dakinis, by the practice protectors, holders, through the lineage, through the compassion of Tilopa and Naropa, the forefathers of the Kagyu lineage, the enlightened masters, holders of the teachings of the practice lineage. The intention of the Tantras dawned in his heart, the heart of Milarepa she's talking about. And the harvest of compassion of the translator, Marpalot Sawa. So that's Milarepa's master, to whom he pays homage. So that the harvest of his compassion expands in all 10 directions. And the harvest is this pure fruit, which ripens for every one of his students. Because of this fruit I take to my crown your lotus feet, that liberate my own mind. So I hold you so high, I put your lotus feet up here. And in doing so, and having that devotion and appreciation, my mind becomes liberated through that. And she carries on to speaking to him, great Repa of Guntang. This means Milarepa. Repa is the cotton-clad one, Guntang is the area in which he was born. Great Repa of Guntang, with such compassion, your banner of renown flies in the 10 directions. You're famous. You're famous because of your deeds, of what you've done, of who you are. In the 10 directions. Precious jewel upon my crown, you're like a precious jewel on my head. With faith and respect, I supplicate you, Father Guru, who has been so kind to myself and all of those to be tamed. I think that's self-explanatory. You steer our analysis to the Dharma. However we analyze and study, you steer us to the Dharma and establish us upon the unerring, the unmistaken path. Through Abhisheka, through the empowerments and instructions, you ripen mind streams that are unripe. It's like we're the kind of raw, undeveloped fruit, and through your compassion and through your instruction, we become ripe. And through means you liberate those without freedom. You liberate us. Before we were unliberated, we hadn't no real freedom. And then she goes into what she's really understood. So all of that has really basically been paying homage to her guru, because that's through him that she's achieved this. These are appearances that dawn as a variety outside. So everything that we see, everything that appears to us in all its variety, through the way you pointed it out, are like an illusion. It's like a dream. You could say like a dream. And when awareness meets Dharmata, which is like our primordial Buddha nature, that we become self-aware, in other words, then these magical displays of the wavering mind dissolve into their own place, all the manifestations and all our thoughts and all the way we think of things, and all of this is just kind of like row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's kind of like they're just magical displays of our wavering mind, which doesn't really understand. And so because of his pointing out, they dissolve in their own place, just like waves that have a momentary appearance. Looks like something's happening, doesn't it? There's a separate entity called a wave. Ooh, let's get that wave. And then it dissolves. It's gone. Where's it gone? It's back into where it came from, into the ocean. It was never apart from the ocean. But for a moment, there was a magical appearance, you could say, a momentary appearance, and we thought that was a something called a wave. So we put that label on it. But it was just part of the ocean. Through the great strength and force of my practice, I directly cut through every conceptual imputation, all the deviations of the worldly path, the mundane path, the worldly way of seeing, with its countless, innumerable concepts and theories and all of this stuff. Intellectual kind of, this is this, that's that, and then, and we know, if we look in the past, what was true sort of 100 years ago is no longer true, because it moves on all the time, because none of it is absolutely true. It's just has a kind of a bit of an evolution going on, but none of it is actually true. So yesterday's or today's new discovery is tomorrow's chip paper. It's kind of like that, or maybe not quite that, but something like that. So all of these deviations. But the unmistaken path has taken birth in my mind. The path which is not mistaken. I understand the secret mantra's path of means. So Vajrayana, or Tantrayana, is called a secret mantra. Why is it secret? Is it some secret club that only some people get the key to or something like that? No, it's secret because it's hard to understand. That's why it's secret. Not many people can understand it. And in order to understand it, we have to do the practice. And not many people do the practice. And those who do the practice, not many of them will persevere. And so it goes and gets more and more rare until they say it's like those who realize it's like a daytime star. You know, it is possible to see a daytime star, but it's so rare. So this is not ordinary. Kind of isn't it, kind of isn't. So she's understood this secret mantra's path of means. Not only that, but she doesn't mistake higher paths for those that are lower. Because when we're searching, we can easily get fooled. Somebody has a very clever way of talking, oh, that sounds really good, or somebody's a very famous teacher, oh, they must be good because they're really famous, or whatever. There's many ways that we can get deceived. But I don't mistake higher paths for those that are lower. I know now. I wanted Buddhahood, I've always wanted Buddhahood, but I couldn't realize it. So, in the Guru's presence, I fervently requested the excellent support of the secret mantra. It was only through him that she was going to get this. And then she not only requested it, but she followed through in no uncertain terms. And then she mentions her Dharma brother, Neng Zongpa, and says that together with him, we compared our experiences in realization. But apart from that, you know, so she's had some Dharma brother support in that way, someone on the same path. Then she says, look, I'm a clever lady, I'm grounded, I'm smart. You know, she's not being falsely modest. She's saying, most people would say I'm clever, I'm grounded, I'm smart. Those who try to deceive me, I know where it's at now. I'll eat them for breakfast, basically. I make them my meal. I make short time, my time in ignorant sleep. So she's not saying she doesn't sleep, but she's saying she sleeps as least as possible. Because, why? Because she's prolonging her mind stream in the state of shamatha, which is the state of meditation, of high meditation, of stable meditation, shamatha. So because she's able to do that, she doesn't need much sleep. As for men, I turned them all down to their face. You've got no chance. And many years have gone by since I gave up my soft pillow. She doesn't need the luxuries of this world. I'm laughing because I couldn't get comfy with my pillow last night. Kept turning it over to make it cooler on the other side. Many years have gone by since I gave up my soft pillow. Mahamudra's reality, Mahamudra is the highest realization, descends upon my head. She's open. She's a vessel that's pure. It just pours into her. And I rest within it, one-pointedly, undistracted, not... Oh, did I lock the door? What am I going to have for lunch? So-and-so said something. It was really horrible. What is that? Oh, that was a really nice experience. All of our stuff that we go through, it's not there anymore. She's unreservedly, one-pointedly undistracted. And in my striving for the state of nirvana, the state of no suffering, I'm not separate from emptiness and compassion. Emptiness, the understanding that all things are empty of any independent existence. The real understanding of that, not just the words. But not just that understanding, but also the compassion, which is totally impartial. Because of the understanding of all beings, having been your mothers and fathers, and it would be stupid to be partial. But we are stupid, so we're still labouring under that. But she's not, she's gone beyond that now. Thus, I have no pride, because everything's empty, including me, or disregard for others, because of the compassion aspect. So it's not like, well, I like him because he's close to me and I've known him for years, and this one I don't know, she's new, I've never met her before, I'm not so compassionate. You know, we do this all the time, don't we? There's none of that. All compassion for all beings. I'm never unhappy with discussing the Dharma. It's the one subject that because it encompasses everything, I'm never unhappy discussing that with the Guru who is endowed with kindness. The Guru who is endowed with kindness, I've always seen him as the Buddha. I offered this song in deep gratitude to him. May the Dakinis revel in this feast of sound. You know, it's a time to celebrate. The Dakinis who hold the teachings, they should also celebrate. And thus she offered her realization. The Jetsun was pleased and said, so, the young lady has shown more signs of meditation. For Vipassana to dawn like this is very rare. That's the insight meditation. You have entered into the path of omniscience, and you should continue to meditate in mountain retreats. So, keeping Milarepa's words in our mind, let's just us have a few moments meditation. Just sit with everything that you've heard this morning, and with Milarepa's words ringing in our ears. Just straighten up your posture. If you're sitting in a chair, that's fine, but come forward so you're not leaning on the back of the chair. Keep your eyes open. You don't have to be wide open, but a little bit open, and resting, looking downwards, and then forget about your eyes. The reason we keep them open is so that we don't get drowsy. There's a tendency to get sleepy if they have them closed, so that's why we keep them slightly open. Straighten up the back. Just relax, body and mind. Pay attention to your breathing. Feel the air coming in through your nose and down into your lungs. Filling the lungs, the diaphragm, the belly. Relax the belly, allow it to fill with the fresh air. And as you breathe out, letting it all go, all the stale air. And imagine any pains or aches and pains or any stress or mental problems, just leaving your body on the out breath. And we'll just take we'll count 10 breaths, and by that I mean one in breath and one out breath, but breathing normally, but with a bit more awareness. So we'll count up to 10 of those. Taking in the fresh energy, letting go of the stale energy. And when you've reached to 10, just let go of the counting. Mind and body resting in awareness. Relaxed but alert. Resting in your true nature of mind. Observing whatever arises, rather like the waves we talked about, arising out of the ocean, dissolving back into the ocean. And just taking a little time to rest, observing, relaxed, natural and uncontrived. Mind in its resting awareness. Limitless like the sky. So, not quite as long as Saleh meditates, but we're out of time for now. So maybe just even 5-10 minutes is something to give us a little bit of a taste of, with those words in our minds. So just to finish off the narrative, so Milarepa said to her, you should continue to meditate in mountain retreats. It's all good. You're doing great. Carry on. Accordingly, Saleh remained inseparable from mountain retreats and meditated. Through this, she became a self-liberated Dakini who benefited the teachings and many sentient beings. A Buddha, essentially. This is one of the stories of the 4 primary female disciples of the Jetsun that were written down by Dzong Tunpa Jangchuk Jalpo, who has the Dharani of perfect memory. So he recorded it. This is the cycle of Saleh. So, when you see it in relation to how she was at the beginning, we definitely do see a big progression. She obviously had loads of potential, but from that beginning to the end of that chapter is quite a lot of progress. So, of course, we're just reading it. She's doing it, and took many, many years. So we shouldn't be disheartened. If anything, we should be inspired by it. Especially, not because she's a woman, but being a woman in those days was particularly difficult. Especially, she was only 16 years old. She was from a family that had some wealth, and she obviously had some means. It wasn't she had to go out to work every day, or be dependent on people. So she had that going for her, but you say that good karma, but still it was very unusual, and she got really tested, but she came through with flying colours. So we can take that as our inspiration, and hopefully you'll be able to use that for your practice. And that's the end of that chapter, and also the end of the course. So we're going to have a summer break, and then after the summer break, I'm not sure yet what program we will have, if there's the will to carry on with this. Okay, that's 1. 2. Okay, so if we can, like I picked out, it's such a wealth of material. Some of it is very long, and for practical reasons like that, it wouldn't be that easy. In fact, even that one that we did, I had to split it into 2, and it was very advanced, that second session. But I'll go through it and see if there's something that kind of springs to mind that would be a appropriate sort of chunk of them, and we can carry on if there is the will. Okay. So let's finish our session with the dedication prayer. And I would encourage people to have this as all of these, not only Saleh, but all of the ones as inspiration for our own practice. And then we can also be the sons and daughters of Milarepa. It's in our hands. Yeah, beyond life and death. So we dedicate the merit of our practice, the short prayer at the bottom. Oh, by this merit may I obtain omniscience, defeat the enemy wrongdoing, and so free all beings from the ocean of samsara, with its stormy waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. So I wish you all well, and hope that you found it of some use, of some inspiration to you, these wonderful songs of Milarepa. and that you stay well and happy until we meet again. Thank you.